tomorrow night we're gonna have grilled pork chops. We like our pork chops on the thicker side, about an inch thick. The problem with that is to get them to the temperature they need to be for safe consumption, you have to grill them for a little bit longer than you would a thinner pork chop. Well, that dries them out, and nobody likes a dry pork chop. So what I do is I brine my pork chops. I brine them no less than 5 hours before we grill. I really like to brine them overnight. So what I'm gonna do tonight is show you how to do the brine, get the pork chops in it, and then tomorrow night I'm gonna bring you back and show you how we grill them. So what you're gonna need for the brine, gallon size plastic storage bags, a 1/4 measure cup, brown sugar, measuring cup, measuring spoons, pepper, salt, apple juice, and a pan. And you will also need about 2 cups of ice, but when we get to that point, I'll measure that out. So let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead and measure into the pot we're gonna be cooking the brine in. I'm gonna measure out a 1/4 cup of salt. I prefer kosher salt in this recipe. Doesn't have to be kosher salt. You can use any salt that you have. Now we're gonna put in a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. And again, if it's a little more, it's not a worry. We're going to put in 1 tablespoon of black pepper. Two cups of apple juice of your choice. Let's see. Measure that out. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get this on the stove to get the sugar and the salt melted into the apple juice. I'll meet you at the stove. Okay, I have moved this pan to the stove and I put my stove on medium-high heat. What we're just basically trying to do is melt the sugar and the salt into the apple juice. It won't take very long, maybe 5 minutes. Just stir it every once in a while. While this is melting, go ahead and get your ice ready. You will need 2 cups of ice, and just put it in a larger bowl, a bowl that could hold probably 6 or 8 cups of liquid. I'll get my ice together, and when we have this to a boil and everything dissolved, I'll be back. Okay, I've just come up to a bubble, so I'm going to turn the stove off, and I'm going to immediately put it into my ice, because this has to cool completely. It cannot be room temperature. It cannot be kind of cold. It has to be refrigerator cold before you put your chops into it, because if you don't, you run the risk of growing nasty bacteria. Mine looks like more than yours will, because again, I'm a firm believer in prep it once, cook it once, eat twice. So I doubled this recipe, and I'm also going to be doubling the amount of chops that go in the recipe. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, and when it is completely cool, I will bring you back and we'll put the chops in it. Okay, it is much later now. My brine is completely cold. I have my cold pork chops here, so I'm going to put my pork chops in the bag. And I already have 1 bag prepared over here because, like I said, I'm going to double this recipe. Now you take the brine and you just pour it over the pork chops. Let's see. And take this out of here. What we want to do is try and get as much air out of this as possible. Go ahead and seal it up most of the way, because you want that brine to make as much contact with the pork chops as possible. Make sure it's sealed. And you just kind of lay them flat. Now, you will need to flip these over. So in the morning, I will come in here and I will flip these over. I put them in another container in case the bag has a hole in it. I just don't want to worry about cross-contamination. So here are my pork chops brining, and when we get the grill ready to put these on, I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to come back and mention I had leftover brine. No raw meat has touched this brine, so I feel comfortable putting it in the freezer and freezing it for later. When I want to do a brine on some pork chops real quick, I'll just pull it out, put it in the refrigerator, put my chops in, and be ready to go. I also need to make it clear, the pork chops we're cooking tomorrow are in the brine in the refrigerator. They have to stay cold. I don't think it was very clear on that, so make sure you put your brine and your chops in the refrigerator overnight. Okay, it's the next day and we are ready to grill. So I'm going to take my pork chops out of the brine, and let's see, I'm going to set one bag over here. That way I only have one bag in the pan at a time. And what I'm going to do is open it up. I like to start off with a dry pork chop, because that way, any way my husband chooses to season these, the seasoning will stick to the pork chop and not the brine. So what I do is just take them, pat them off, paper towel, and just put them on a plate, ready for him to season up any way he chooses. So I'm going to get the rest of these patted and get them on the plate and ready for him to season. When we're ready for the seasoning, I'll be back. Okay, tonight my husband's decided to put Greek seasoning and house seasoning on the pork chops. I think he'd agree, you want to season them well, but you don't want to over season. So just a light sprinkling of both, or any seasoning that you choose. Just a simple salt and pepper, or you might even choose to do like a Mexican or a taco seasoning on these. Season both sides. When he has this done, we'll meet you out at the grill. Okay, our barbecue is ready. When you turn on your barbecue, make sure you turn it on high heat. This is for propane. That way you can get the grill ready and get everything ready to scrub off like he's fixing to do. He's fixing to just scrape the grill down. After you do this, you turn it on to medium-high heat. This is just to scrape off any residue that might be on there from the last time you grilled. Okay, the next step is to spray down whatever you're grilling with some kind of oil. We're choosing to use a spray oil. And then just put the chops on, or whatever you're grilling. These chops should probably take about 4 minutes aside. Maybe 5. They are kind of thick, so 5 minutes aside. Thinner, you wouldn't want to go as long. When we're ready to turn them, okay, we're ready to flip them. We do have a couple of thinner ones on here. When it comes to your thinner pork chops or whatever meat that you're cooking, if it is less than a ½ inch thick, you really need to pay attention to it and watch it more than you would a thicker one, because it will cook faster and also dry out faster. Also notice we have changed the aluminum foil. You do not want to place your cooked meat back on the aluminum foil that you had the raw meat on. Very important. That's cross-contamination, and we don't want to do that. When these are ready to come off the grill, we'll be back. Okay, it was about time to start testing our pork chops. And of course you can use a meat thermometer, but for us, the quickest way to do it is to cut it open. This looks done. It's supposed to be completely white all the way through. It looks done, but you can see it's still kind of translucent in there. Not done. Put those back on the grill. And We chose our thickest one to test. That way, if the thickest one is done, you know they're all done. So these need to cook for a little bit longer. Okay, the chops are off of the grill, and what we need to do now is let them rest. They need to rest from anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes, just to let the juices redistribute through the meat. We will cover them with some aluminum foil. Also very important, if you are working with a propane grill, make sure you turn that propane off. When we have this on the plate, we'll be back. Here it is, plated up. We have the brined and grilled pork chop. We have, tonight we're serving it with homemade stovetop stuffing, which I've been asked to do a video on that, so that'll be coming, and some peas.